I I've always been a fan of minorities in that regard. I think I'd much rather belong to a minority than a large gray cesspool of nothing. So in that being said, I think let's continue to pursue that and see what we can do with it, and see how well we can define what it is that actually takes us to those places in our body and in our spirit, because it's not like taking a drug. It's not like chewing mushrooms and then that you're gonna be somewhere, you're gonna have an experience. No, this is self-induced. This is self-induced, and it's induced by way of art, and by way of focus and so on, and by way of tradition in a sense. If we're talking now about like a black metal community here, and I think that one should never stop to wonder about these things. They're not finalized in their current form. I mean the parts of black metal culture that have ventured into realms where the divine and meets with the performer. I don't think that we're anywhere close to the true potential of that,
Right.
I also tend to get a little bit bitter sometimes when I speak about these kind of things, because there were, for a while, in the early 90s, there were people, not many at all, but again, a proud minority that started to explore these things. I would say maybe 10 out of 1,000 people in that current black metal scene that were starting to explore these sides of trance-inducing performance, of taking this music into a more like divine field, including more like sacred elements and so on, and acknowledging the fact that there was something larger than themselves present in the room when the music was being performed and so on. But that track, that pattern of thought was kind of like, it kind of evaporated a little bit, instead of like taking this like firm, harsh, like burning path that it should have throughout the history of black and death metal. It's kind of like, the way I see it at least, it kind of got a little bit loosened up along the way. There were a few people that stuck to their guns, but most people didn't, because most people have a tendency to do this at a certain age in life, and then they grow up and traditions pass through written word, but they also pass like orally, and they pass from person to person, and I feel that we are not a culture where that has its shit together when it comes to the definition and the passing of the really important knowledge that has been acquired through the brief time that this art form has been around. I think we can get much better at that. But that's that's a thing on its own, I guess.
It's very wisely put. I think there's a generational thing attached to that as well, where I think as we've grown older, especially in the last however many decades, just humanity as a whole has become more cynical, to the point that, I almost wish that, to play the devil's advocate, I almost even wish that the religious people of the world were more fanatical, because that's the kind of balance that you know that was once there, because it's not just them but it's everyone's kind of taking everything loose. It's every man for himself, and there's no purpose anymore, there's no meaning, no nothing, you know. And I like that meaning because it doesn't come out of nothingness, you know. You're the only band I've ever known over the years who, especially, you know, like let's say going back, I don't know, like 10 years ago, because I saw you guys do the Bloodstock Festival in 2012, and then of course 18 as well, which we met and you kindly dedicated Furor Diabolicus to us. Haven't forgotten that. And of course that there's something like, just from the first time I saw you, it was like, I have never had a band bleed into my dreams as much as Watain has done. And I find that to be really interesting. I think that's more than just a coincidence of like, oh, you spend so much time thinking about this. There's something else somewhere out there that's, I think, goes beyond the third dimensional world that we're used to.
It's intentional, you know. It's not a coincidence, or it's intentional. We work intentionally with the layers of the in between, and we acknowledge that they exist first and foremost, you know, which I think, I mean, a lot of bands create magical things, or a lot of artists create magical art, you know, that makes their way into our dreams. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, and a relevant way too. But some do it with being aware of that this is actually occurring, you know, and if you are, you can also build on that. You can feed that, and you can continue along that path, and make your work into something that exists not only, you know, here but also here, and in between, you know. I mean, I think, for example, I don't know, a random example, like the Doors, I think we're quite aware of the spiritual capacity of their music, you know. And they've been, I think, you know, a lot of people would still refer to them as a magical entity, or as something that was in touch with something that was way bigger than the sum of its parts, so to say, you know. But I think this fact about being aware that art and music and the words that you repeat like a mantra when you are on stage, they have inherent power, you know. They have inherent power beyond that people, you know, sing along, or you know, that people appreciate what they stand for, or whatever, you know. They have an inherent power, that a magical power that can be forcefully like enhanced and revered and paid respect to, and so on, you know, and in doing so, and in doing so, exactly, becoming more charged, and this is also rare, you know. This is also I would say, like, this is also something that only a minority of bands, I think, acknowledge and intentionally like work with, and I find it super interesting. I mean, I myself, it you know, it's not like I think I'm talking about, you know, 10 bands out of 100 in my record collection that even been close to these kind of approaches to their own work, you know. But I find it, I don't know, encouraging somehow that there are people that think in magical spiritual terms around their music. I think that's super how to say, it bodes well for the future of this culture. I like that there is a language around these kind of things, even if a lot of it is just gibberish and charlatans who want to earn a quick buck on other people's hard work. But I do believe that the conversations about these things need to continue among the new generation as well. And I also thought another thing that I would really wish for is, if I could sound a little bit like old and wishful about things to come, I would love to see a more defined conversation in the black and death metal scene about what people are actually talking about when they are talking about all these symbols and god names and so on, and like what do you want first and foremost? Where do you come from? What do you want? Because people gather around the devil. People gather around this figure of power, the adversary, the great light that brings illumination to the rebels and to the seekers. But they often forget, I find, that they all come from totally different places in the world, from within themselves. Some people seek out the devil because they are depressed and because they've been, battered to health death when they were young, or because they had, whatever. Other people seek it because they see that there is wisdom there, and other people seek it for entirely different reasons. So there has to be this. I've always been missing a little bit. People shouldn't take the meaning of these symbols and these god names, these archetypes, for granted. I think there has to be. I think they should be more defined before people go on using them. I would wish that. I mean, it's nothing. It's not on my agenda to change how things are going in that regard. But for my own, if I could wish one thing, for the future of this art form and for this culture, is a deeper understanding about what these symbols actually mean, and to not take things for granted just because you've made up your own mind about what it meant